Whether you're looking for answers to specific life questions or seeking to become the best version of you possible, welcome to the Mental Breakdown and Psych Reg podcast, where we offer insight, information, and strategies based upon research and years of practice as clinical psychologists. So sit back, have a listen, and get connected with our hosts, Dr. Bernie Wilkinson and Dr. Richard Marshall. Welcome back. Here we are for another episode where we're going to wrap up our conversation about millennials today.
And I'm sorry that this is coming to an end.
Well, it doesn't have to come to an end. We'll be able to talk about it again.
I've enjoyed discussing it, and I've gotten positive feedback from viewers.
We've gotten some really nice feedback from folks.
Apparently, it's a topic that's on people's minds.
Absolutely. So hopefully today, what we're gonna do is sort of wrap up some of the things that we've talked about over the course of the last few days, and put a little bow on top and talk about where it comes from, what we're doing, and what we can do about it, maybe.
Right. And that was a good part about this conversation this week, is not only did we raise some issues,
right,
but we also said we share the responsibility. Millennials are not off the hook. I mean, you can blame the baby boomers, but you still have some responsibilities.
Right.
And the baby boomers and Gen Xers also have some responsibilities. Okay?
Right.
So that's what I was glad about, that we talked about. Where do we go from here?
Right, because I think that it's so easy to say, oh, those kids of today.
Right.
And we sit back and we say that it's their fault. We say that if they would just do this, if they would just do that, but we fail for whatever reason to recognize that they are doing what we taught them to do.
That's right. They are a product of their upbringing. Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. So
over the course of the week, we've talked about a variety of things. We've talked about a lot of the complaints that folks have had about millennials, including that sense of entitlement, the fact that they kind of enter adulthood with the expectation that they're going to succeed without really having to do much of anything.
Right.
But also the fact that they're not really prepared for any of that.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
For the struggles, the challenges,
right,
the upheaval that is going to occur once they're through their formal and highly structured education.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. So they're not prepared for adulthood because everything has been done up to that point. Everything has been done for them. Everything has been programmed for them. Everything has been set. Here's the steps that you take to do this, and they've never really had to figure out anything on their own.
And that which they couldn't figure out, they simply picked up a cell phone and called somebody, or they Googled it. And so the solutions have always been easily available.
Absolutely. So if we can accept some of that, that this is the case. And then we accept the fact that much of that was, I wouldn't say by our design, I will say that it was our doing that contributed to it.
Right, and the structure was by design.
Right.
I mean,
that's true.
when you think of the educational experience, when I think a generation ago, when students went off to college, they didn't know what to expect, and they sort of had to manage as well as they could.
Right.
Now, the educational experience is structured. For example, when we ask children to learn how to write, now you write to a formula. You're told what formula to use to write. Okay,
I think that's a great example.
Right, and we're given rubrics. We give students rubrics. Say, if you want an A, this is what you do. We never had that. A generation or two ago, you were never given a formula. This is what you do to get an A.
Right.
You worked as hard as you could, and you hoped that you were doing the kind of work that deserved an A.
Right.
Okay. A very, very different structure. But again, the millennials didn't ask for that, and they're right about that.
Right.
They didn't ask for that structure.
Right.
That was given to them.
Well, and I think that I think that makes a very important point, that what we've done in education with the idea of rubrics and all of that is we have taken what we've done at home and applied that to the education setting, because because again, the idea is that every parent expects their child to get an A. And so I need to know what he needs to do to get an A.
That's right.
And so that the parent can then make sure that the child gets the A. And the focus is on the A, not the process of, or not even the education, really. They don't even really care if they've learned anything. All they care about is that there's an A.
There's another insidious place where this insinuates itself into education is that we have things called accommodations now. And the idea with an accommodation is that if your child has a specific and identifiable deficit or challenge or weakness, the school can make an accommodation. If your child works too slowly, the school can offer more time.
That's through the Americans with Disability Act and the Individuals with Disability Education Act.
That's right. And so schools can make these accommodations to compensate for a neurodevelopmental weakness or disorder or an attention problem. It's not, however, to assure that your child gets an A. That's a different issue.
Exactly.
And the two have become mixed. In other words, there are parents who say, well, I want these accommodations so that my child can get an A. That was never the intention, okay? So there's been a little bit of confusion with this whole notion of accommodations. We can accommodate to your deficit. Getting an A is a different issue altogether.
Yeah, and I find it interesting when, and I'm sure that you have the same experience. Sometimes we'll see kids and they'll come in because their parents are really frustrated with them, and the parents will, when they talk about school, the parents will say, well, he could do better in school, and the kid says, I'm fine with a B, and the parents are like, yeah, but you can make an A. Well, again, we're in this situation where the parents have these expectations, and they're very frustrated with the kids when the kids don't share those expectations. And so we have this, or we're holding this perspective and this belief that our kids should meet some benchmark that is, I think in some ways artificially established. We're saying, you have to perform at this level to get an A, or you have to perform at this level to get a B, and so on. I don't know how those levels are decided, first of all, because it's very arbitrary and fluctuates from school to school, from subject to subject.
Teacher to teacher.
Right. And so, but we have this idea that, well, success is an A, when it's not. There's a great variety of success. And so when parents hold this perspective, and we hold it in so many areas of life, because to be successful at school, you have to get an A. To be successful on a sports team, you have to be the captain. If you want to be successful socially, you have to have, these peers that meet some criteria. And we have this idea of perfection that we want our kids to present with in all of these different areas. And then when they become adults, we get angry with them because they have this expectation that everything's going to work out perfect for them.
That's right. Yeah, because you have parents, and the baby boomers and Gen Xers, guilty as charged. You have parents who said, I am going to be the best parent. I'm going to do this right. My parents didn't get it right, but I'm going to get this parenting thing right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to structure my children's lives so that they will achieve success. I know how to be successful. This is what you have to do. You have to get all A's. You have to be the captain of the team. I know exactly what my child has to do to be a success. And they engineer that. Well, in engineering and in building that structure, you take away some of the important elements that children need to truly become successful, self-sufficient, and independent. You remove those items by guaranteeing success. And the kids get to age 18, they graduate from high school or they graduate from college, and they really don't have the resources to manage life after school.
And I think that the another risk that this presents us with is that if as a parent we make sure that our kids are successful, and again defining success by A's and so on, what we're doing is we're giving them the answers, we're giving them the solution to some of these problems. And so then our kids are unable to solve problems. So what they have grown up with is this, solutions are presented to them, and they don't have to critically think, and they don't have to investigate and evaluate and research and understand things at a level that affords them the ability to problem solve, because those solutions have always been given to them.
I don't know whether we ever talked about this, but it struck both of us when we read it, about the dad whose daughter came up to him. I think she was a soccer player.
Yeah.
Did we ever talk about that before?
I think we mentioned it on the previous podcast, but it's great. It just fits here.
I just love it because the daughter came up to the dad and she was complaining because she was a pretty good soccer player. I mean, I'll give credit to her for that. She was very good. She thought she should be playing a certain position, or she should have more time, or she should be starting, or something. And she went to her dad, and she was complaining about the coach, and she complained about the other players, and she complained about this. And the dad, not in a sarcastic or demeaning way, kind of took her by the shoulders and gently looked into her eyes and simply said, "Work harder."
Yeah.
And that was the end of the discussion.
That was it.
And it's up to you, honey. You work as hard as you can.
Right.
I'm not going to rescue you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to intervene on your behalf. Most parents wouldn't do that.
Right.
They would think about, how can I intervene on my child's behalf? After all, my child's hurting. No, this dad said exactly the right thing. Work harder.
Right. And that's the message that we need them to learn.
And not in a dismissive way.
Right.
Work harder. Go, it's your problem. No. Yeah. Honey, that's the solution. Work harder.
Work harder. Practice more.
Right.
Do more on your own. Do more between practices.
I'll take you to a coach. I'll take you to a mentor. I'll take you to a teacher. I'll do whatever I can for you to work harder.
Right.
But I'm not going to solve the problem for you.
And what I also like about the story is that it puts the child in the driver's seat. Work harder. Let me know how you choose to work harder, and I will help with that.
I'll support
but I'm not going to tell you how to work harder.
That's right.
I'll guide, I'll assist as you need it, but this is your boat. That's right. You need to drive it. I think that what we also see as a consequence of this is that as these kids get older, and again they reach adulthood, because they don't really know how to problem solve, they're having a difficult time figuring out how to manage and navigate adult life. And they are having a difficult time solving problems. They're having a difficult time figuring out how some of the nuances of challenging relationships, and we, again, have the whole idea and phenomenon of failure to launch, because they just can't survive. They can't make it out there on their own because they just don't have the skills.
When you take away the structure, whether it's an educational structure or a church structure or what family structure, as soon as you remove those supports, they fall apart.
Right.
And the goal of parenting from puberty to 18 is to gradually remove the scaffolding, to gradually move the supports, so that when they reach 18, they're able to do this without assistance.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always discouraging and concerning when I talk to a parent of a 16-year-old or 17-year-old, and the parents are still, the kids aren't allowed to go out with others, they're not allowed to date, they're not allowed to do any of those things, and I ask them, what's going to happen in a year and a half or 2 years when they go away to college, because that's the expectation, that they're going to go away to go to college. Right. They're not going to know how to handle any of these things.
Right. They'll make their mistakes when they're not with you.
Right.
I want them to make their mistakes when they're with us.
Right.
So we can provide the support.
Right. So for all of these reasons, and we'll get to you millennials in just a second. So, but a lot of these issues then fall at the foot of the parents who's created much of this.
That's right. Parents and the educational establishment.
Right.
Starting with colleges and going down to elementary school, we have structured everything for success. Right. And we're denying these kids the opportunity to learn how to do this themselves.
Right. Now, millennials. This is for millennials. So some of this still falls at your foot. Right. What we hear from a lot of millennials is that it's our parents' fault. We're angry. We feel this.
We've been duped. We've been lied to, misled, given false hope.
And while all of that may be true, you are still where you are, and you still have to do something. Right. You can't say, well, you know what? This is what my parents did. That's it. That's all I can do.
No, it's not my problem. It's
can't do anything about it.
It's not your parents' problem.
Right.
It's your parents' fault.
Right.
But it's not your parents' problem.
Right. So you have to work to identify some of these limitations, perhaps, that you may have, and then you have to do something about it.
Right.
You can't just say, well, this is what happened to me. I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to, stay in my parents' basement for the rest of my life and everything will be fine.
You made me this way, so I'm going to continue to be here and be in your life.
Right.
No, that's not the solution.
Right.
You may not have the skill set. You may have arrived at age 22 or 24, and you may feel that you're not prepared. Fair enough.
Right.
Okay, we'll take the blame for that. However, it still is your obligation. And if you don't have the skills, then it is your obligation to go out and get them.
Right.
It's not that you can't do this. It's new, we understand. It's frightening, we understand. You're unsure, we understand. But it's still your obligation to go out and get the skills that you don't yet have.
Right.
This is for college seniors. This is almost February. They are beginning the recruiting process.
Right.
High school students are looking to college. College graduates are looking to jobs. Okay.
Right.
They've never done it before.
Right.
It's scary business. There are skills that you don't possess. Go out and get those skills.
Right.
Figure out what you have to do to get the skills you need now for this next part of your life.
Right.
Don't blame the past.
Right.
Prepare yourself for what's coming up.
And let's be honest, millennials. You have a lot of skills.
That's the advantage.
You have access to everything.
Right.
I mean, through the internet and through some of those resources, you have access to almost anything you want or need.
Right.
So if you have to do something, or if you have to get a job, or you have to do something that you're just not comfortable with, there are plenty of resources that you can access in your parents' basement, or wherever you are.
Right.
You can access it to learn those things that you need to learn.
Exactly. This Google it. My goodness.
Right.
Begin by Googling it. There was a time when
you can even YouTube it.
Right. That's right.
There's video tutorials of just about anything you need to do.
How do I get a job?
Right.
How do I? I'm a college graduate. How do I get a job? There will be hundreds of resources that you can use to develop the skills you need to take this next step.
Right.
So you're really well positioned. I mean, the resources are there. You just have to access them. The other thing you have to do, and many of you may not have done this yet, is you need to understand yourself as well as possible. You need to take a good hard look at who are you, what do you really want to do for a living. Maybe you majored in business, but you don't want to work for a corporation. Okay? Learn that about yourself and begin with the person that you really are, and then start to pursue those kinds of career goals. So it's a two-step process.
Right.
Get to know yourself and then decide how you really want to spend your time.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that self-reflection is going to really be important. And I think that, because we've talked about this before, understanding who you are, that creates the foundation that so much of the rest of your life is going to be built upon. So you need to make sure that you understand yourself. Not that you understand yourself in such minutia that it's like, I am this specific type of person. But, I was talking with somebody yesterday that, if all of these if bad things happen, if really awful things happen, and, you find yourself, or if, I'll talk about myself. If I find myself, without a house, without a job, without anything, one thing that I know is that I'm still me.
That's right.
And I know that I am this type of person. I know that I know that I will be able to survive because I will do this, and I know that I'll be able to make it because I'll do that.
Right.
But I know that about myself, so it gives me a sense of confidence and removes worry, it removes anxiety with that stuff. So knowing yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what you are, is really important as you're entering some of these different stages of life, and that comes from self-reflection.
Right. And there's two words that you're going to keep encountering. One is wish, and the other is afraid. Each week, Dr. Bernie ends the podcast with "Forget to be afraid."
Right.
If you're a recent high school graduate, a recent college graduate, a recent graduate school graduate, don't be afraid.
Right.
Okay. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Right.
Don't worry about failing.
Right.
Don't be afraid to fail. There's absolutely nothing wrong with failing.
Right.
Okay. Try it. If you don't like it, change.
Right.
Try it. If you fail, try again. Try something else. don't be afraid.
Right.
It's new, it's scary, we understand that, but don't be afraid.
Right.
And the other word is wish. I wish I would have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people get to the end of their college, graduate from college, and I'm sure this happened with your classmates. They get to the end of college and say, I wished I would have majored in.
Right. Yeah.
I wish I would have gone
Mm-hmm.
to law school. I wish. Follow your wish.
Mm-hmm.
If you wish you would have, then go do it.
Right.
Well, I just finished 4 years of college, so go
Yeah.
finish another 3 if that's what you want to do. Follow the wishes. If
Right.
you wish you would have done something, do it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's not structured. It is scary, but that's okay.
Right.
That's how we've all done it. Because what the millennials have to remember is you are not really that different
Right.
from preceding generations. You may think you are. We all have these same struggles.
Right.
Gen Xers did, the parents of Gen Xers, the baby boomers did, the parents of the baby boomers did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We all had similar struggles. So
Yeah.
your struggles are not that much different.
Right.
So don't be afraid. And if you wish you would have done it, go do it.
Right.
Have the courage to go do it.
And just like as you were talking about, not fearing failure.
Right.
The practice that we have now is doing. We're doing well. We're busy. We're doing a lot of and seeing a lot of people. This is our second attempt at this.
That's right. Well, yeah, at least
Second
a second
or third.
attempt or third.
I was
We've
I was
had
going
a
to forget
lot
one of those.
And no, so we've had several attempts. It's not that we failed; it
Right.
just didn't go where. But within those, do you remember all the things we've done within each of those attempts?
Yeah.
That we don't do anymore.
I have some of that blocked out.
Right, but my goodness, it was a what did Edison say, or maybe it's Edison or one of those guys said, yeah, but I know 1,000 things that don't work.
Right.
So that's progress.
We know a few things.
We know a few things that don't work.
So it's going to happen. That's the message. It's going to happen, and so accept the fact that it's going to happen.
Right. It's okay.
And learn from it, and then you'll be more successful the next time.
I have 2 children who are at this level. One graduating from high school, one graduating from college. And I would say, girls, I don't care how many times you fail.
Right.
It's absolutely immaterial to me.
Right.
Failure means nothing
Right.
as long as you keep going.
Absolutely.
So go ahead and fail. Try it, fail, try again.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the last message that I think we want to send here is it related to something you said a moment ago. Millennials, you're starting your own families.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
think about and make sure that you keep in mind these experiences that you've had, the ways in which you feel like you were ill prepared for adulthood, and make sure that when you have children, you don't follow and make some of those same mistakes,
Right.
create some of those same limitations for your family, for your children.
Yeah, you know what didn't work for you.
Right.
Don't repeat those same mistakes.
Right.
Give your children opportunities to fail. Give them opportunities to get strong. Give them opportunities to grow, to fail and grow and fail and grow.
Right.
You know that's what you need to do with your own children.
Right.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, I think that's it. I think that wraps up at least this first go round of podcasts
Yeah, I hope
about
there's more.
focusing on millennials.
Right.
We'll be back next week to talk about a lot of other things. We're working on some new interviews with some people that we'll be doing over the
There's
next
some great
couple of
interviews
weeks.
coming up.
Yeah. And it's very exciting. So, but we have those things coming up, and we have some other things that are in store for you, our favorite listeners.
Right.
And if you are wondering if you are one of our favorite listeners, if you heard me say that,
You are.
then you are one of our favorite listeners.
You are our favorite.
So definitely come back next week, and we will we'll be bringing some more information to you.
And if you are a millennial, we'd love to hear from you. Okay? Because we'd like to talk more about. No?
Yeah.
I would like to.
Yeah.
No, he would like to hear from you. He teases, but we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
What are your experiences? What are your fears? What are your wishes? What kinds of things would you like to start doing? Let us know what those things are.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We'd like to discuss this additionally. We'd like to discuss it in the future. So please give us a call.
Absolutely. So, and we got to go because I can hear other people arriving
People
here
are
in the office. So we will see you next week. So until then, I'm Dr. Bernie.
I'm Dr. Richard.
Stay happy, stay healthy, and forget to be afraid.
See, there it is.